Hello guys, this is Oroth and a warm welcome back to my channel. In today's video we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into the new Demon Hunter essences, and we're also gonna showcase a couple of new builds that you can use. And to make this episode even more interesting, I've also brought in a very special guest. So let's welcome to the channel Mobilux, one of the strongest players on our server. Hello Mobilux.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, and before we begin today's video, because you're gonna help me to showcase these new builds, tell the viewers a little bit about what you like to do in Diablo Immortal and who you are as a player.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been playing Diablo since roughly 1.5 years now, I guess. I wasn't actually a day one player. I started around Christmas that year. And pretty much like you, I'm mainly interested in maximizing PvE damage. I think that's pretty fun. And normally, in fact, I'm playing Wizard as my main class. It's been a while now, to be fair. And also Barbarian, but mainly for PvP. I very much like melee classes for PvP. But now recently, basically with this patch, I came back to Demon Hunter. It's been months and months and months that I've played Demon Hunter, but as you laid out in your previous video, there's a huge potential for the new Inferno 6 Demon Hunter essences, and I guess we've come up with a very nice burst damage build here that we'd like to showcase.
Yeah, I also thought about you when seeing these new essences in the patch notes, because you also have a very different setup when it comes to reforgers, etc. And I think that this build really shines when someone like you utilizes it. And of course, I can also tell everyone that Mobilux has come up with many cool builds for Blood Knights and Wizards. And hopefully we will be able to showcase them on this channel in another video. But as I said, it's very nice to have you here, Mobilux. And the topic of today's video is to look at these new Demon Hunter builds. So why don't you lead the way and show us the skills we're going to use for this first build we're highlighting?
Absolutely. All right, so in terms of skills, we are using crossbow shot as our primary. And then for the other 4 skill slots, we first off have knockback shot, then vengeance, multi-shot, and strafe. And basically multi-shot and strafe will benefit the most from the new essences.
Okay, so let's dive in to the essences then. Tell us about the setup you're using.
All right, so let's begin with the helm slot, where we utilize Eyes Ablaze, which is a multi-shot essence and causes every multi-shot that hits burning enemies to cause an extra explosion. In our chest piece, we have a word that I can't pronounce. It's duplicatus prophetics, something like that.
That's good enough. That's good enough.
fair enough. So knockback shot essence, and that causes your primary attack to fire blasts of wind, which is an old essence but pretty strong, especially for this build. Then for shoulder, we are using Hailfire. That causes multi-shot to launch 2 extra rockets. As a pants, we have Runier's Path, which essentially increases all the damage you do while Vengeance is on. Then first main hand, we have Unrelenting Furor, which increases the strafe duration. As our first offhand, this is a very nice and cool new essence called Pain Sour, and now that makes it happen that strafe fires your primary attacks, and that goes very nicely hand in hand with the new other second main hand called Fang Spitter. And here it's now the case that multi-shot empowers your primary attacks. to fire multi-shots as well. Then lastly, we have the second offhand theory of retribution, and that simply causes your crossbow shot to fire an additional shot every 3 times, whenever you hit an enemy 3 times.
Okay, so those were the essences. Take us quick through the legendary gems we're using.
So in terms of legendary gems, we have as 5 stars Gloom Cask, Bottled Hope, BSJ, and Roiling Consequence. For 2 stars, Mother's Lament, Pain Clasp, and Fervent Fang. And lastly, 1-star gem, Berserker's Eye.
Okay, so those are all good legendary gems. But if we also look a little bit closer here, we can see that there are certain slots that are awakened. And I understand that not all of you watching this video will be able to pick which awakenings you want or not. But for those who can, I think it's still important to mention that you have to carefully consider which slots to awaken. And for this particular build, what we have done is that when we are going to the training dummy and attack the dummy using this build, and we click on the breakdown, we can see which skill deals the most damage. So in this case, we have primary attack, the crossbow shot that will deal most damage, and in second place we have multi-shot. So this indicates that we want to prioritize to first upgrade the damage of the primary attack and then prioritize the multi-shot. But what's also very special with this build in particular is that if we are able to reduce the cooldown on strafe, it will also increase the duration where we will be able to use strafe. So therefore, we have also opted for awakening effects that reduces the cooldown of strafe. So that's a cool interaction that we didn't know about before doing this type of science. And what's also important to mention is that if we look here on the first main hand, Unrelenting Furor, we have it awakened, and it gives 10% damage to strafe. And if you look on the breakdown, it looks like strafe itself almost does no damage. But it's clear from our testing that every damage increase we can apply to strafe will also affect all of the other skills that are linked to strafe through different essences. So that's also a very interesting takeaway from this. We also have to, I think, look a little bit closer on some of these legendary gems. And the first that I want to talk about a little bit more is Gloom Cask, because we all know that Gloom Cask is a very strong legendary gem if you are using a primary attack based build. And if you think about it, this new archetype for Demon Hunters is basically like a machine gun of primary attacks when we use this new offhand Pain Sower. So I wasn't sure before the patch released, but each primary attack that is fired through this new strafe will also shoot one of these Gloom Cask blades. So it's crazy damage output from this gem. So it's a strong gem in a normal primary attack based build, but it's even stronger in this archetype. Am I right, Mobilux?
No, absolutely. And what will also extremely benefit from Gloom Cask here is attack speed, essentially. I mean, you mentioned machine gun, and it would be an even stronger machine gun the faster you can attack, for sure.
Yeah, because attack speed affects the speed in which strafe shoots its arrows and its skills. So very good to focus on attack speed with this build. Are there any other legendary gems here that are important to mention?
For this specific build, I would just quickly like to add the synergy between Roiling Consequences and the helmet, Eyes Ablaze, because what we haven't mentioned yet is that Roiling Consequences, besides enhancing your critical hit chances, also putting a burn effect on the enemy, and that now synergizes with the Helm asset, because the effect will only trigger when you deal multi-shots to burning enemies. So that goes pretty nicely hand in hand here.
Yeah, that's very true. Because you could maybe activate this effect with your familiar if you have a Brutalon, but there is no other way that's as efficient as Roiling Consequence. I really agree about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the set pieces. Maybe you can tell us quick which sets are we using here in this build.
So in this build, we are using 4 pieces of Urges, mainly for the attack speed, and 4 pieces of Seed, since we are utilizing a channel build that benefits hugely from the 4 pieces of Seeds, actually.
Okay, and I think that this set is of course a lot more interesting because it has not been used in many builds before. How does it work? Like if we look at the 2-piece effect first, it's quite straightforward. When you are continually channeling a skill onto a target, the damage of the skill will increase up to 30% over time. But what's even more cool is maybe the 4-piece effect. And how does it work exactly?
Yeah, so whenever you stop channeling, you will deal an additional explosion that deals 30% of the damage dealt. And that can also crit. So you can imagine that whatever damage you put out in 5 seconds or longer, that will determine the final explosion. And I think in this build, we can demonstrate pretty nicely that the 4-piece effect of Seeds is huge, really. It's quite nice.
Yeah, and what's also interesting to mention here is that when we look at the breakdown of this build, it looks like Strafe itself does very little damage if we look on the numbers. But when we look at the 4-piece Seeds of Zone Gold effect, it seems like it adds up not only the strafe damage, but all the damage from all the skills that are linked to strafe. So that's why it becomes such a strong option. We're going to see here when we do some dummy runs to showcase the burst, we will see crits over 20 million, and that has never been seen before. So it's very, very cool. So now we have gone through the build, what it looks like with the essences and the gems, etc. But let's also look at some dummy runs to see the output in action. And after we have done so, we will also make some alterations so that we can bring this archetype out into dungeons. Okay, but before doing so, it's time to say goodbye to Mobilux. I really want to thank you for joining us today, and maybe you have some final words to tell our viewers today before you leave.
Sure. I mean, I guess first of all, I should thank you also for having me on as a guest, and it was definitely fun. It was a great pleasure to talk about some new build for the Demon Hunter, and maybe also for a change, a build that doesn't evolve around summons, rather primary attacks in this case. So yeah, I mean, it was fun, and I guess if you want to have me on for some more stuff, I'd be very much open to it.
Yeah, I would be super delighted to have you here, and I'm sure the viewers would say the same. And as I said at the beginning of this video, you have made a lot of cool builds for both Blood Knights and Wizards, and also for Barbarians. So hopefully we can have you on soon again to gain more of your insights. So thank you so much once again, Mobilux, and I hope to see you again soon. So take care.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So let's take a quick look at the training dummy run itself. and we can see here that the damage output is crazy. Of course, it might look a little bit different depending on your setup, but if you're using the legendary gems and the essences presented here, you will have a very strong and efficient build. And I can also mention that if you need to sustain your damage output a little bit, you can switch out your Berserker's Eye for Trickshot gem, so that your strafe will last a little bit longer. So that's a great tip. But let's go forward and look at a few dungeon runs, and we're gonna run a few of them together. And before watching it, let's just talk about different alterations you can do for the dungeons. So first of all, I would switch out 2 pieces of Seeds of Sown Gold for 2 pieces of Isetar. And this is of course to increase our movement speed whenever we kill something, because of course movement speed is important in dungeons. But also, if you want to, and this is something that I personally prefer, is to switch out the primary attack skill so that I use Explosive Arrow instead of Crossbow Shot. Because with Explosive Arrow, I can also switch in one offhand that is called Hellbinder, which makes Explosive Arrow apply a burn effect to any target it hits. And this works very well with the helmet, because as we mentioned earlier, we need a burn effect on the target for the helmet to work properly. And we do use Rolling Consequence, but when the Rolling Consequence is on cooldown, I will have 100% uptime on this effect thanks to Hellbinder and Explosive Arrow. So these are some changes that you can try out. And of course, I would also recommend to bring a Barbarian to the party to increase your movement speed. If you're able to perfect it, you don't even need the Isetar. So yeah, there are many interesting choices to think about to clear the dungeons as fast as possible. But yeah, I guess that's it. I'm gonna let you guys keep watching some dungeon runs here before saying goodbye, but it's been a pleasure to share this video with you guys, and until next time, I wish you a very nice day or a very nice evening wherever you are. And of course, to all of my clan members in Nyx, I would like to say Vork Nyx, Sholak Sul. So bye bye.